Okay, we'll open the meeting. I think it's actually 4:01 for the June 12th Riverfront Advisory Committee. Anyone making public comment? Okay. So we'll start with approval of the minutes from last meeting, which was May 8th. Joe, thanks for doing the draft of those. I think the only comment I really had is there was a typo in the Coastal Resiliency Grant, just in the name of it. I think it says like COSTAL. But other than that, no issues. Does anyone else have any comment or question?
I spelled coastal wrong.
Yeah, I think that was it.
I saw nothing. Make a motion, we approve.
I'll second.
Nice. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstention. Non-voting member.
Non-voting.
Abstending from not voting. No, that sounds good. So despite having written this agenda for the 8th month in a row, with it flip-flopped, I need to change this, but I think it makes more sense to talk about old business first rather than new business first. So I'm going to flip-flop items 3 and 4. So first one was just any updates on grant or funding things.
I haven't heard back, so we submitted in May 24th,
Okay.
Coastal Resiliency, and we're just waiting on a response right now. So
Okay. Maybe like a month
stay
or two.
tuned. I think sooner than that.
Okay.
Hopefully July at the latest. We'll know.
Is this for the, is this mostly towards the Moonlight Brook hydrology stuff? H&H?
This is for the master plan chapter.
That's
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there any expectation for how that's going to play out? You know, if the town receives the grant and the master plan process proceeds, has it gone that far? I mean, I might just be speaking from my own personal ignorance.
Are you? Is your question if does DES have expectation that chapter should be passed?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess just what is the final outcome to consider? Like, what is the final deliverable of that grant?
Yep. So it would be a chapter on the Riverfront area. So it
Okay.
would be specifically the community facilities chapter. There'll be a section in it dedicated to the Riverfront area
Okay.
and how the town would like to proceed in making improvements there.
So is that the process, sort of, you get example documents if they're available of any other towns that have already done it? Would Stratford give you that?
Yeah, so we partnered with Stratford on this, and they basically, the process will be them and Plan New Hampshire will help us with that specific chapter. So we're looking for Stratford to do a whole update with us. And so, in addition, supplemental help will be Plan New Hampshire, which we already have a rapport with. So, and then the final document will be a chapter update. So we're going through a whole comprehensive master plan update, but this specific money will be dedicated towards that chapter.
And is the chapter expected to be finalized after the charrette?
Yes. Yep. So the charrette will happen. And we have another year to finalize that chapter, really. So the end date for a whole adoption of the new master plan will be in June 25. So that's what we're hoping for. Hopefully sooner, but that's our target date right now.
And where are most of the discussions on that chapter going to take place? Is that, I seem like planning board was always very active in the master plan. The same thing for here for the Riverfront?
Correct. So the planning board is the authority on updating the master plan. So it'll go through all them. Also, there'll be other community venues for discussion. For instance, the charrette, and then we're looking probably to do more focus groups, online surveys. So we're trying to reach out as much as possible, but to different segments of the town in a variety of ways. But for official meetings, it'll be planning board.
Interesting. No, thank you for that.
Yep.
Do you know if Lindsay ended up putting anything in for clean water SRF from Moonlight Brook? I can
I'll
always
have to
ask
follow
her.
up with her. I'm not sure. I know she was working on something, I believe.
Yeah, 'cause
I'm not sure
those
when
were June 1 for that, but I
Yeah.
don't remember if she was gonna do something or not.
I think she did.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she mentioned on the last staff meeting that there was something filed.
Okay.
So,
Just two additional comments, kind of off the agenda, but kind of in relation to that. We had talked about the town survey last time. Has there been any update on that?
it's still open.
It's still open.
Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't put any questions in there related to things that we
No.
wanted, right?
Yeah,
Just
because
a-
the reason
I
why,
didn't see any.
yeah, so the reason for that was they wanted to keep the same survey so you can see your survey by survey comparison.
Okay.
So kind of keep it consistent.
Where can people access
On the
that?
town website.
Just through the
Yeah,
town
I think
website.
on the front page, there's a link to it.
Yeah, I think I got mine through the e-newsletter, I think it was on there.
Mhm.
Either that or they sent it directly to me because I'm on that mailing list.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Oh, good to know. Just because I knew it was coming and haven't done it, so I
Yeah.
figured other
Yeah,
people
I
might have
think
the same question.
I just did it last week.
And another, just follow up. I was forgetting what date, but I think it was the middle of May. Lindsay and I had gone out with Dr. Jones from UNH and looked at Moonlight Brook and helped him just understand access points along the brook for sampling. Some of the past work that he's done is obviously the bacteriological stuff that found that the outlet of Moonlight Brook into the Lamprey was kind of the only place in the Lamprey River watershed where they were seeing a ton of bacteria contamination, primarily from humans. So now the goal is figuring out, okay, well, where along Moonlight Brook may that be occurring? So no sample data back as far as I'm aware. I think it just started a couple weeks ago, but just trying to give him a few access points along the brook so he can try to figure out where that might be being introduced.
Do we know any more about, do they expect any effect on Lamprey River bacterial counts from the Bay Road pumping station, the sewer leak over there? Anybody?
At the last town council meeting, that was brought up, and Sean is doing daily testing, and there's really no significant contamination. It's all under EPA guidelines. The pipe is like 14 feet underneath the surface, the bottom of the river there, so
Is it,
very little actually coming out.
okay, is it 14 feet below the bottom?
But 14 feet below the yeah.
Yeah, for the bed.
Below the
riverbed,
bed,
yeah.
So, okay.
So it has all that, when it's filtering up, it's going through.
A lot of bacterial processes.
Right,
that-
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Good to know. My
sounds
family will be glad to know.
No, that's not surprising, and I mean, I'm sure Sean's all over it, and I'm sure many people at DES and potentially all the way up to the EPA are very aware of the situation, so
Yep.
they're all on top of it.
Yes.
It's quite a year between Epping and that.
It does, well, what's it, when it rains it pours. Just a couple updates on Shanda Park. So something that we discussed, I think last meeting and potentially in April and many times, was just overall coordination and getting a little bit more, I guess, clarity on who owns what with Shanda Park in terms of just general responsibility. I think that same day that I met with Lindsay, then went and met with Bart and Ellen Snyder from Conservation Commission and Amy from the Rec Department, and met down at the park and just kind of talked about some general things. I think the overall flavor of those conversations is the Conservation Commission has to kind of ask for the work, but it seems like can lean upon town staff to assist with that within reason. We also, through the Conservation Commission, do have a dedicated fund for Shanda Park that was kind of gifted to us along with the park as a stewardship property. So that seems to kind of be how the workflow will go, is that Conservation Commission will kind of bring things up and Public Works and the Rec will help as needed. But kind of already since that meeting, there's been like a work day down there to just kind of remove some of the stray plants, do a little bit of, just minor landscaping. They removed that tree that was kind of obstructing the main view right off the back of the courtyard area, and put up some new fencing to replace our orange snow fencing, which is sadly
Did they
sadly
cut it
gone
down?
at this point.
Did they cut that tree down?
Yeah.
Yep.
They did. Oh, I
So
didn't
tree's
know.
gone.
It's great.
Yep. So tree's gone. New, better looking temporary fence up there. Still a long-term solution, maybe needed down the line, but at least it's like green and looks good and isn't orange mesh anymore. So definitely some improvements. So thanks to some of our volunteers. Actually, I think it was some high school kids through like an outreach program there that worked with Ellen and the Conservation Commission right before Memorial Day. So I think they get the bulk of the thanks for that one. Just one other update on Shanda Park. Through the Conservation Commission also, we've been working on putting a oyster garden down at Shanda Park for the year. I actually just met with the person from the Nature Conservancy today about that. So it's going to go over by the town dock area. And there will be a small sign that just kind of explains what it is and what's going on. But they're looking for volunteers to just kind of occasionally pull it up and do a count and write it down. So it's a pretty minor lift, but there will be some educational materials there that kind of explain what's going on and all that. And that should hopefully be there sometime in July.
What's the frequency? Yeah.
Yeah, for frequency, I did ask her that. There only needs to be a count like once every week or so.
Unless it's different for the other ones, but I think it's probably the same. They have like two measurements. It may be a little different just so that there's more, there'll be a lot more volunteers when you got it, so it may be that way.
Yeah.
But the form I do has two measurements, and then they encourage you, you can shake it off, clean it off, just get all the, if there's a accumulation of silt to get it out and stuff like that.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I think there will be a little sign with some info and maybe a QR code kind of right there. But I had actually asked the inverse question of will it harm them if they're getting pulled up multiple times a day?
Yeah.
Which the answer was no, because I actually think at Shanda Park that's probably more likely than not.
Yeah.
'Cause people will be like, oh, that's interesting, will help.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, I just didn't know whether you wanted to have it sort of encourage it to be like organized. Oh, we're going to have a count then. Or,
Yeah, I think it's just kind of an ongoing thing.
Okay.
I don't think it has to be anything. It's mostly just kind of a point of interest, and especially when the tide's lower, you'll likely see the basket where it's anchored. So just that's what it is. A little thing for people to get some exposure to that.
Is it will it be a basket, or is it one of those bigger wooden things?
It's like a
Like
mini,
a mini cage.
like a
Yeah.
lobster
Trap.
pot.
Like a lobster trap, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it's not a big thing.
No, the one I saw was like this.
Bigger than that, more like yay,
Yeah,
something
okay.
like that.
It's been a
And
few
it's
years.
got bungee with a door that opens, and they usually will have, well, at least in my experiences, like lately, they might have one in there with just old shell in it to see if there's any wild seeding of the spat from the water, and then they'll have, so there may, and it may vary a little bit from year to year what the questions they ask, but some of them will just be in the big basket there, and some of them might be in another bag that's in there that separates those. Last year was wild in the lamprey because it just grew like crazy, and they many times fused together. They put a bunch of shell in there with spat that are seeded
All that
on,
nitrogen.
and they
Yeah, that's right.
and they were they just really took off. So you had to kind of break them up to get it so you could, because you may be counting how many, that number of spats per shell or something. The questions have changed a little bit over the years, but that's that kind of thing.
I think there's a similar one at Town Landing in Durham on
Yep.
West River, and it's right there, dock, and you can pull it up and look at it.
They've had one at Moody Point for a long time.
No, did they?
Yeah, that kind of a community one at Moody Point.
Yeah.
But I mean, you do measure it with a micrometer for those, if it's the same thing. So you may, it may require, you know, sort of a little bit of, if you're gonna try to keep up with those measuring points, it may be in, you know, it might be nice to have some tool and sort of somebody that, you know, like officially this is when you're gonna measure for the dates. Once you have what everything is, that might be something to consider.
Yeah, that's something we can follow up on, because I'm not 100% sure what they want. They basically just build it as, can we put something here, which seems like, yeah, that seems reasonable.
Right, right. And then, I'm trying to remember her name, there's,
Kimberly?
yeah.
Yeah.
Brianna's the person that used to do that
Yeah.
before she became the director there, so.
Yeah, so that's who I met today, was Kim
Kim, yeah.
Kim Marlin.
Yeah. 'Cause I don't remember the name of the lady, but there was a doctoral student who, I think the Conservation Committee had a paddle down, and they pulled up, must have been the one at Woody Point, several years ago. This would maybe be 5 or 6 years ago, and the lady was a doctoral student.
Yeah. There's some interesting, it's an interesting program out at TNC. I mean, it's really quite a thing that TNC is located, has their regional headquarters in Newmarket for it. And, you know, for the standpoint of Leverland Creek, but they were, I think Newmarket, the TNC in Newmarket was the lead. It was Alex Lafreniere was an actual PhD, you know, researcher who was there for a while before Brianna was in that post, and she came up when the pandemic hit with this SOAR program, and it's nationwide now, but it's where they pay for oversized oysters from the oyster farmers, because they didn't want the oyster farmers to go out of business. There's tremendous water quality and ecological benefits from having the oysters farmed, and if the oysters, you know, they couldn't sell their oysters for a while because all the restaurants closed, which is the primary market. And so when the oysters get too big, they're not marketable anymore. So rather than have them all go out of, you know, go belly up business-wise, they came up with grant money, and they would buy the oversized oysters and then use them for seeding as well in the bay. And that kept the oyster farming going, and so, but that was out of that, you know, led out of that TNC office in Newmarket.
It's pretty interesting. Thanks for sharing. So the only, I guess, real new business that I felt like was worth bringing up was really just under the concept of, if we're gonna have a couple months before our own charrette or anything else, it seems like our timeline got pushed out a little bit. I was wondering if it's worth us kind of all collectively seeing if we can gather a little bit more info from what some other communities might be doing. And what kind of gave me the idea was just Dover finally kind of moving forward with the Cochico waterfront development, because that's obviously something I think's been discussed there for 20 years, maybe longer. But it's obviously a much larger scope, I think, than we're looking at in terms of like redevelopment. But I think it has a lot of the same general thoughts of, you know, they started with a charrette, get community buy-in for what they want to do with the property or how people want to engage with this, all the way up to, you know, getting people to, and developers to put their own kind of visions forward based on some criteria. So I think there's things to potentially learn, but Dover may not be the only one. You know, I think other towns have done this stuff. So that's kind of just what I was thinking is, if there isn't a major rush for us, maybe we can all kind of see if we can learn a little bit more collectively about what some other people have done and what's been successful for them. Serve as a template for us moving forward over the next year.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Do you want to organize it, like have each assign everybody one to kind of try to look at it in a little more detail, or have everybody try to look at several?
I think my thought process, and I mean, this is open for discussion, is just, does anybody know of any, like, does anyone have a personal contact? Why I keep coming back to Dover too is just, professionally through my job, I actually know and interact with the gentleman on Dover's side that kind of got put in charge of kind of overseeing it from the city's point of view. So that just kind of came up in conversation about something else, and it's like, okay, well, there's a potential connection to get some information about how that went from a municipal point of view for that project or something like that. So like, while that one just sort of kind of fell off the tree into the lap, that's why I was thinking, does anybody know of anything else? Does it have a connection?
Was the waterfront restoration out at Wagon Hill Farm, was that done by Durham, or was that by somebody else? Because it's right there.
That
right
was
there.
big grant money.
The reason I asked is I have a friend.
Would know all about that.
I have a
Was,
friend
but
who's on
Durham would
the
know.
town council over there, so.
Same thing, they would probably know. I mean, again, like, I think of like the Lumberland Creek culvert, like, sure, there was a lot of grant money for that, but at the end of the day, it was town of Newmarket project.
Yeah.
You know, so like, while other people might have funded big portions of it, like Durham would have had to have had a say.
What's your scope? Is it more like downtown waterfront redevelopment, like how they pushed it forward? Or like Dover, or smaller projects like Wagon Hill, well, smaller in general, but.
Well, I think of the one, the landing in Durham, for example. That has components about is how they have, you know, Todd there, they have strong philosophies, how they're approaching water rise, you know, sea level rise, and, you know, they for example are not, you know, when king tides hit now, and even more so in the future, that parking lot is going to flood, and right now it doesn't sound like they're planning to try to armor it or anyways. They're just sort of planning to adapt there, let the water, you know, the uses adapt and stuff like that, but not raise the level of the park. So, you know, I think it would be interesting, in addition to the things they've already done, understanding, you know, how they plan to, you know, Dover especially, what is their approach to the next 50 years, 30,
Yeah.
you know, because those are the climate change estimates, and, you know, all of the, you know, Exeter, certainly they have.
I think Exeter would be more appropriate, because it's almost a similar environment as Newmarket.
Yeah.
Yeah, Exeter and Dover, because you have that downtown, you know, urban waterfront, more so than like Oyster River at Jackson's Landing area, or Wagon Hill, which is more open space,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
conservation, almost.
I'd be interested in seeing the issues that they ran into as far as doing any kind of development or work on waterfront. You know, here, I get my hand slapped, you can't can't fill this in, you can't do that.
Right.
You can't. So I'm
Yeah.
sure they've run into all sorts of environmental and, you know, things like that. I'd be curious about what they ran into and how they're doing it.
Yeah. I guess to answer your direct question, I don't know.
I can.
It's just
Examples.
like, I think it's interesting to look at what other people have been successful with. Doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be successful with the same strategies, but
Well,
some
and another
of
thing
interest.
that would be of interest to see is what, you know, if they've made changes in recent times or are planning to make changes, what documents are they using? How are they, you know,
Yeah.
how are they going through the document and planning process? Because that's kind of where we're, you know, we've had a lot of conversations, but I feel like we're at the point where we're going to start getting more serious about documents too.
Yeah, I would agree. Just something kind of being cast out at random, but that was just a conversation that had happened Friday and kind of got me thinking about it as a whole. Of, you know, they're not the only ones that have approached this. We're not the only ones that have approached this.
Are you willing to look at examples out of state? just from if we're looking at process,
I think so.
we're gonna have obviously different, process, from a regulatory standpoint, different processes, but it'd be interesting to see, because there's gonna be some similarities in the process that we're gonna undergo, especially like community outreach and whatnot.
Yeah, and
So-
another example of so I just had a little bit of time to kill on Saturday as I was going to take care of something up in Maine, so I swung by Wells Harbor, which is the town I grew up in. And yeah, like they had the pedestrian bridge at the harbor, like something like that. Like, how was that idea moved from, is it something we could do through like a public process to like occurring? Like, just as another example of just, doesn't mean we have to build the bridge here. No, it's not a one-to-one thing. It's more just the concept of idea, community outreach, and public implementation to like it being reality. Like stuff like that is definitely
You
of
talking
interest.
about Perkins Cove? That one there in Conquet?
No, there's actually one in the harbor. I'd have to like draw a map.
Okay.
It's like kind of hard to explain.
Is-
They like made a pedestrian walk in Wells Harbor.
Oh, the walk, yes.
Yeah.
By the Fisherman's Catch?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay,
Sorry,
yeah.
bridge was the wrong term.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the pedestrian walk out
Gotcha.
by the
Oh,
harbor.
I didn't know if you were talking, is it, oh, no, am I thinking, where's the one where you go to Loudon Farm, is it? And
That's
there's-
Rachel Carson Preserve.
Yeah.
That's past Drake's Island.
Yeah.
It's basically Drake's
Also
Island.
in Wells,
Yeah,
but-
yeah,
Yeah.
There's a pedestrian bridge on that, right, so.
Yeah.
yep. Right, they cut through, yeah, you're right.
I got two things. So I heard they're gonna be doing some work on the bridge in front of the dam there. And with this work that they're gonna be doing on the pipe underneath the river there, maybe we can talk Bart into kind of slipping in a connection to Heron Point while they're looking at all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's two different things, and it's so far away from Heron Point, the bridge, it's not,
Mhm.
I'm not sure.
But they're gonna be doing that, and they're gonna be doing some kind of easements, I'm sure, to do all the work on the pipe there. Maybe while they're doing that, you can
Yeah.
slide in something about the
I'm not
connection.
sure, I'm not sure we want to jeopardize
Yeah.
a sewer pipe project. But I think what we want to do first is actually have that conversation with the community on what they want. Because, we're easement.
This is a timing thing here.
It's a
This
timing
is
thing.
now.
Yeah, but I think they're separate.
I think Sean will say
Yeah,
the same.
exactly. Again, does even the community want a bridge? We don't even know.
Yeah.
But
That's the thing. So our
We can get
easements
in
around.
front of, I'm thinking if we can get easements
Yeah.
in front of those houses that go from that bridge to Heron Point,
Yeah.
maybe we could have something on the water side there, a dock, walking dock, or, something.
Yeah, I just, I see where you're going, we're already there, but, from a replacement standpoint, but I think we want to separate those two out, my opinion.
Let's put a bug in here.
Yeah, that's right.
The other thing I had, I thought of, I don't know if this is, you can start with this committee, but maybe it's the rec department or arts and tourism, but what if we had a contest or something to paint a mural on the pumping station at Creighton Point there? Something on the water side there that's,
Creighton Street, yeah.
I like
Shot
that.
with Dr.
It's
Sean.
up to Sean.
that's another bridge.
Something to watch might be this little pocket park here. I mean, I noticed
Yeah.
there's been a painted project that I think happened maybe this weekend or in the last week or so. I walked down to the post office before this. And so that might be an indicator of how much interest there is in painting things and decorating things.
I'm sure there'd be a lot of people that'd be interested in doing it, but
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually pretty good interest in murals downtown, so the Arts and Tourism Commission is working, and Culture
Yeah.
Commission is working on that one in the Pocket Park.
Yeah.
Eric Tinberg has also given permission for one of his walls, it's a cement masonry block wall, but it's up 3 stories, but it's very visible from Main Street. And there's another building in town that potentially, so the Newmarket Main Street Corporation and the Newmarket Arts, Culture, and Tourism Committee are looking at those other murals. The Pocket Park one is just the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Committee. But there is interest, actually there's interest in the Elm Street mural as well, what to do with Leanne's mural, because it's historical, but a few people feel it's past its prime. So there's a big question what to do there, but there is interest in public art in town from the administration. I met with Steve on this, and Bart was there, and there's been interest all over the place.
You know, I was at a prep conference last week, and somehow the idea was stimulated. I was thinking, like, public art. Like, what if we had like a piece that was kind of cyclical? So it had like is basically it would show seasons and all the migratory fish and birds that are coming, and then it would follow the seasons. It'd be kind of neat. It was like kind of mechanical. If we had like a contest, kind of how can you show the the species coming in from the Great Bay, from the ocean during their migratory periods, and it shows like the time of year and what species are coming in. So it's almost like a circle going around.
And you were working on maybe related, but Fillion Park, I think. As
Yes.
well.
Yep. That. So yes. So working on that. There's also it's a question on right now between us and Fish and Game on the fish ladder, and coming up with an agreement there.
Yep.
So I'm actually met the person head of that program at Prep.
Yep.
So I'll be working with her closely to try to get somewhere. Meanwhile, we're working on other avenues to get the process moving. So
That's just a great opportunity for educational
Yep.
signage, or
Right.
like you say, some sort of seasonal migratory
yeah.
thing.
Right, and then introduce public art too. How can you put that in an artistic form? Through like a sculpture and maybe something that's a little more mechanical. I thought it'd be kind of interesting.
Are you trying to get that to be open to the, right now it's behind the fence?
Yes,
And
trying to get it open,
on a daily basis?
daily basis. That's the goal. So, so now, there was some impediments when the idea was introduced to that person. So it's gonna, I think it's gonna take some time to, smooth it out and, have a clear understanding of what the use is gonna be, how their operations will not be impeded,
Yeah.
and how what that's gonna look like. So, anyways, I'll give an update on that one later.
Do you have any thoughts on, if there's going to be kind of an assignment to do homework and try to sort of, gather information around there? It seems like it would probably be useful if we had some guidance from Bart before we set out, just some ideas about things, or maybe that's making it too complicated. We can just kind of try to go to some of these places and see, but if there were plans to look at or anything you thought was good reading, or if you had out-of-state places, it probably, we could start thinking in a more, getting some background on that, and thinking about things we should know more about maybe.
So nothing comes to mind right now, but what I can do is, get some examples and just assign them to people.
Yeah, that's almost what I was thinking. Is
Yeah.
instead of making more work for you, maybe if you got specific ideas or things that come to mind, assign them to us.
So let me
Okay,
this
okay.
week find some examples of communities that went through this type of process, and then I'll distribute them.
That sounds good.
And then for our next meeting, we can go over, lessons.
Present our homework.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea, and I know we're here in mid-June, and a lot of people kind of take time through the summer. We got a major holiday in a few weeks too, so I was kind of thinking of proposing maybe we skip July anyway, come back in August, get a little time to look at stuff, dig into stuff, maybe figure a few more things out, and hit it early August if that sounds good to people.
If it were possible this far ahead, I'd like to be at that meeting, and I'm going to be gone the first two weeks in August. If it doesn't mess anybody else up, and it could be the third week in August, that would be,
I'll be gone, well, not that I'm a voting member, but I'll be gone the first 2 weeks as well.
yeah.
So we're talking like the 21st? It would be the latest it can be. Or are you talking, is the first week of August the one that starts July 31st?
That for me, that's the first week of August, the one that
Okay.
starts July 31st, and then, so.
So is that the 15th,
It would be the
14th?
14th.
I'll be back on the 15th. I don't know about, what about you?
Actually, I just misspoke, because it's actually September, the first 2 weeks of September, so.
Oh,
The other August.
The other August,
Yeah.
I got a long summer.
August, I mean, we're talking the 14th, right?
So I already know I have a charity event the 14th.
Okay,
So
so
if
that
we
would,
couldn't do it,
14th is what comes up automatically as the second Monday.
Yeah.
So that would have been our usual one, and I could have made that. But if you wanted, we could switch it to the 21st, right?
Yeah, either the 14th or the 21st works for me.
It's fine 21st is fine for me,
Okay.
if that's what you need to do. We have to post that now at this meeting, that it'll be the 21st, right?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good target. Yeah, rather than try to move it up.
By then, we should know about the grant too.
Yeah, I think that kind of makes sense. That's a pretty hefty interval between now and then. But I don't think that's a bad thing.
Right.
I don't think that's a bad thing. That may kind of be what we need right now to kind of infill a little bit more info and figure out how we want to approach some stuff.
So the idea would be once people have those documents, just read through them and, should be focused on process, what they went through, or just in general? Is there any key things you want people to hone in on?
I think it's less about like the specifics, less about like the technical specifics of the project of this is exactly what they chose to do, or they wanted to put a condo block here with a mixed use park, like, and more just process. Like, to me, that kind of seems
Where we are right now.
where we are is how did they get from we could do X to like it actually happening. I think that's the interesting part. Did they do
So
charrettes?
idea to plan,
Yeah. Yep.
initial idea to plan, and we want to concentrate in the middle.
So I think that is where we are. I think we've done a good job kind of doing the scattershot thing, and now it's more, all right, let's build the foundation of a plan. But I'm also not 100% sure what our plan is currently, so.
But we're about to embark on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's about where we are.
Good.
That's all I had. It's a beautiful day. I don't mean to make people sit inside any more than necessary. If there's anything people want to talk about, we can, or we can adjourn.
So,
All right. I'll second that.
Alrighty.
Our next meeting is?
August
Yeah.
21st,
August 21st.
same time, 4.
So I'm gonna stop being freaking lazy and put the Gmail document so that everyone can access it too. And that may be a good way, kind of just throughout this process over the next 8-9 weeks, however long that is, for people to add stuff to that if they want to as
Good
well.
idea.
Because I don't need to be the gatekeeper on that.
Very good.
I think we're all set down there. Thank you.